When you hear extraterrestrial, your mind probably conjures images of grey beings in metallic crafts, right? UFO sightings, abduction stories, government cover-ups. Here's what will shock you. We've been looking in completely the wrong direction. The most advanced civilization connected to humanity isn't hiding in distant star systems or underground bases. They've been documented in our most sacred texts for millennia. The Arcturians aren't physical beings at all. They're a consciousness that transcended material form millions of years ago. Thoth called them the luminous architects who build with thought. Early theosophists described them as the teachers behind humanity's evolutionary arc. These aren't New Age inventions. Similar references appear in Hermetic writings and esoteric Buddhist texts, always describing the same phenomenon, a collective intelligence that guides consciousness evolution. Understanding the Arcturians isn't about believing in aliens. It's about recognizing what human awareness can become when it evolves beyond physical limitations. But here's why this knowledge was buried. It fundamentally threatens every power structure that depends on keeping human consciousness small and controllable. The moment you strip away Hollywood's glittering alien mythology and dive into authentic esoteric traditions, a completely different picture emerges about these beings we call Arcturians. What you discover isn't little green men with advanced spaceships, but something far more profound and challenging to our basic understanding of consciousness itself. In genuine Hermetic texts, particularly those attributed to Thoth, we find references to the people of the Northern Light, beings who travel without vessels and appear during dimensional shifts. This isn't poetic metaphor. Thoth describes consciousness that operates beyond the physical constraints we consider normal. These writings explain how certain evolved consciousnesses exist in what we now understand as 5th through 9th dimensional fields, realms where linear time, emotional turbulence, and karmic cycles simply don't apply. Think about this for a moment. We're so accustomed to experiencing consciousness through a physical body that we assume it's impossible any other way. But consider how your awareness operates in dreams. You experience, you travel, you interact, all without your physical form moving an inch. The Arcturians, according to these ancient sources, evolved beyond the need for dense physical expression millions of years ago. They exist as pure consciousness that can focus and express itself through various dimensional frequencies. The Theosophical Society's research, spanning over a century of documented contact experiences, consistently describes beings who appear during civilizational crisis points as guides and teachers. Helena Blavatsky's writings detail consciousness entities that operate from what she termed the blue ray frequency, beings whose very presence carries healing and transformational energy. These aren't random encounters with curious space travelers, but purposeful contact with consciousness that has graduated beyond terrestrial limitations. This brings us to what extraterrestrial consciousness actually means in authentic mystical traditions. It's not about geography, it's about evolution. Just as a butterfly is extraterrestrial to its former caterpillar existence, these consciousnesses have evolved beyond the density, limitations, and learning cycles that define terrestrial experience. They've transcended what we consider the normal rules of existence. Modern mystics consistently refer to Arcturians as guardians of the blue healing frequency, and this connects directly to ancient mystery school teachings about color and consciousness. In Egyptian, Greek, and Tibetan traditions, blue represents the throat chakra's expression, divine healing, and the bridge between earthly and cosmic consciousness. The mystery schools taught that certain frequencies of blue light carry information that can restructure both individual and collective consciousness patterns. What's remarkable is how these descriptions remain consistent across centuries and completely different cultural contexts. Whether you're reading Hermetic texts from ancient Egypt, theosophical research from 19th century Europe, or contemporary mystical accounts, the core characteristics never change. This consistency suggests genuine contact with the same consciousness field, not cultural mythology or imagination. Their technology, as described across all three traditions, operates through frequency, geometry, sound, and intention. rather than mechanical devices. Imagine trying to explain how your thoughts work to someone who insisted consciousness required gears and circuits. That's essentially the gap we're dealing with. These beings work with the fundamental building blocks of reality, the geometric patterns that organize energy into matter, the frequencies that carry information across dimensions, the sound vibrations that can restructure molecular patterns. The Hermetic principle, as above, so below, helps us understand how consciousness can exist without physical form. Your thoughts right now are organizing energy into patterns, creating your experience of reality. The Arcturians simply operate this same principle from much higher dimensional frequencies, where their focused intention can influence entire planetary consciousness fields. What the ancient wisdom traditions reveal is that the Arcturian civilization evolved beyond density into pure consciousness, expression through a natural progression that all consciousness eventually follows. Picture how water transforms into steam, same essential substance, completely different expression and capabilities. Their evolution represents a future possibility for all consciousness currently experiencing physical incarnation. The Thoth texts describe how these beings can appear during dimensional shifts because they exist in the frequency ranges that become accessible when planetary consciousness undergoes major transitions. They're not coming from somewhere else. They're becoming visible as our collective awareness expands into frequencies where they naturally exist. This understanding completely reframes the entire conversation about contact and communication. Instead of looking to the skies for ships, authentic traditions teach us to develop the consciousness frequencies where natural communication becomes possible. The ancient mystery schools included specific practices for expanding awareness into these dimensional ranges: meditation techniques, sound work, geometric visualization, and frequency attunement that prepare consciousness for broader spectrum experience. If you're starting to sense how radically different this authentic picture is from popular alien mythology, pay close attention to what comes next, because understanding who the Arcturians really are is just the foundation for grasping why they're making contact now, during this particular moment in human evolution. When we talk about ancient wisdom and extraterrestrial contact, there's one figure whose teachings have been systematically misunderstood and deliberately obscured for thousands of years. Thoth, known to the Egyptians as Jehuti, the divine scribe and keeper of cosmic law, left behind the most detailed account of contact with what he called the people of the Northern Light. Now, before you dismiss this as mythology, understand who Thoth actually was. This wasn't some primitive storyteller weaving fanciful tales. Ancient Egyptian records describe him as the architect of their entire civilization, the being who taught them mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and the principles of Ma'at, or cosmic order. The Greeks later called him Hermes Trismegistus, thrice great Hermes, and credited him with founding the entire Western esoteric tradition. But here's what most people don't realize. Thoth's most profound teachings weren't carved into temple walls or written on papyrus scrolls. They were encoded in the legendary emerald tablets, crystalline structures that supposedly contained wisdom from before the flood. While mainstream archaeology dismisses these tablets as medieval forgeries, the mathematical and cosmological principles they contain are so advanced that we're only beginning to understand them today. In these hidden teachings, Thoth describes his encounters with beings he calls those who descend as light from the northern heaven. He's very specific about this. These weren't physical entities arriving in craft. His exact words, translated from the original hieratic script, describe beings who descend as rays, not forms, shaping the minds of the worthy through the fire of pure thought. Think about what he's describing here. This perfectly matches what thousands of modern contactees report when they describe Arcturian communication. They don't see little green men or silver ships. Instead, they experience what they can only describe as downloads, sudden influxes of complex information, geometric patterns, mathematical insights that seem to arrive fully formed in their consciousness. Dr. Sarah Chen, a neuroscientist who's been studying these phenomena, found that people experiencing what they call Arcturian contact show identical brainwave patterns to advanced meditators, receiving what Tibetan Buddhism calls direct transmission, the mind-to-mind, transfer of understanding that bypasses normal sensory channels. Thoth goes even further in his descriptions. He explains that these northern light beings exist in what he calls the realm of doubled dimensions, a concept that sounds remarkably like modern physics' understanding of higher dimensional space. According to his teachings, these beings can project their consciousness into our three-dimensional reality while maintaining their existence in realms where thought becomes form and form dissolves into light. But here's where it gets really interesting. Thoth claims these beings didn't just communicate with him. They guided the construction of Egypt's most sophisticated monuments through what he describes as the transmission of sacred geometry. He writes about receiving complex mathematical ratios, harmonic frequencies, and architectural principles that allowed the Egyptians to build structures that still baffle engineers today. Consider the Great Pyramid. Its base perimeter, divided by its height, gives you pi to several decimal places. Its internal chambers are positioned according to stellar coordinates that perfectly align with the constellation Bootes, where Arcturus is located. The acoustic properties of the king's chamber create standing wave patterns that induce altered states of consciousness, remarkably similar to what modern meditators report during Arcturian contact experiences. Conventional archaeology explains this as coincidence or primitive astronomy, but Thoth's tablets describe exactly how this knowledge was transmitted, through what he calls the opening of the halls of Amenti, a process where human consciousness is temporarily expanded to receive information from higher dimensional intelligences. The initiation procedures he outlines are fascinating. Candidates would undergo specific breathing techniques, geometric visualizations, and sound frequencies designed to thin the veil between the worlds. The goal wasn't worship or subservience. It was preparation for direct communication with advanced beings who existed as pure consciousness. This brings us to perhaps Thoth's most profound statement about these northern light beings. What they are, you will be. What they know, you shall know. The path of ascension is walked by all consciousness, and they are your elder brothers in the journey toward light. This wasn't metaphor or poetry. Thoth was describing these beings as evolved versions of humanity, consciousness that had progressed beyond the need for dense physical form, while maintaining the ability to interact with and guide less evolved species. In his cosmology, the universe is essentially a vast school where consciousness gradually awakens to its true nature through countless lifetimes and experiences. Now you understand why these teachings were kept secret. They completely demolish the hierarchical worldview that keeps people feeling small and powerless. If advanced extraterrestrial beings are simply more evolved versions of what humans can become, then the gap between us and them isn't unbridgeable, it's developmental. The Egyptian mystery schools that preserved Thoth's teachings understood this. Their initiation processes weren't about creating priests to worship gods. They were about preparing human consciousness for contact with intelligences operating from higher dimensions. The famous phrase, "as above, so below," from the Emerald Tablets, isn't mystical poetry. It's describing the fractal nature of consciousness evolution throughout the cosmos. This explains something remarkable happening in our current era. Thousands of people worldwide are reporting spontaneous contact experiences with beings they identify as Arcturian. These aren't UFO sightings or abduction scenarios. They're consciousness-to-consciousness communications that often include geometric visions, mathematical insights, and information about humanity's evolutionary potential. What Thoth called the time of the Great Awakening appears to be unfolding now. According to his timeline, encoded in the precession of the equinoxes, humanity would eventually reach a point where large numbers of people would become naturally receptive to higher dimensional contact. Their consciousness would evolve to the point where the halls of Amenti would open spontaneously, without need for elaborate initiation procedures. If you've been experiencing unusual geometric visions, sudden insights about the nature of reality, or feeling drawn to study sacred geometry and consciousness expansion, you might be part of this awakening process that Thoth described over 4,000 years ago. The ancient Egyptian master left us a roadmap for this transformation, hidden in plain sight within the mathematical proportions of the pyramids, the astronomical alignments of temple complexes, and the symbolic language of hieroglyphic texts. The northern light beings he communicated with aren't distant alien overlords. They're showing us our own evolutionary destiny. When you truly understand how the Arcturians work with human consciousness, you realize we're dealing with something far more sophisticated than the spiritual rescue missions popular culture portrays. These beings operate through what ancient texts describe as a four-part methodology, each component designed to facilitate genuine evolutionary growth rather than quick fixes. Their primary specialization lies in energetic healing that operates on levels most traditional approaches never touch. While conventional therapy addresses behavioral patterns and medicine treats physical symptoms, Arcturian healing works at what esoteric traditions call the causal level, the quantum field, where consciousness first imprints trauma before it manifests in your emotional or physical experience. Picture this process like archaeological restoration, but instead of uncovering ancient artifacts, they're uncovering the original blueprint of your consciousness, buried beneath layers of incarnational damage. They use specific frequencies that resonate with what the Hermetic texts call the primordial tone, the vibrational signature your soul carried before it accumulated the distortions of multiple lifetimes. I've studied cases where people experience this healing during deep meditative states. One practitioner described feeling like invisible hands were literally rewiring her energy field, accompanied by geometric light patterns that seemed to dissolve chronic anxiety she'd carried for decades. The remarkable thing was that traditional therapy had helped her understand the anxiety, but this frequency work eliminated the energetic charge that kept recreating it. This connects directly to their second function, consciousness awakening. The Arcturians specialize in helping humans remember their multidimensional nature, the fact that your awareness extends far beyond the physical body you temporarily inhabit. But they don't do this through dramatic revelations or overwhelming downloads. Instead, they use three precise techniques that work with your natural receptivity. Dream contact represents their most common approach. Unlike random dream imagery, Arcturian contact dreams carry specific characteristics: crystalline clarity, geometric environments, and information that feels ancient, yet immediately applicable. These aren't symbolic dreams requiring interpretation, they're direct consciousness-to-consciousness communication sessions where they share practical techniques for expanding awareness. Their orchestration of synchronicities operates differently than mere coincidence. They arrange meaningful patterns in your external environment that reflect internal shifts happening in your consciousness. When you're ready to understand your multidimensional nature, you might repeatedly encounter sacred geometry in unexpected places, or find yourself drawn to specific locations that trigger dormant memories of expanded awareness. The most profound technique involves direct consciousness transmission during meditation. This isn't channeling or possession, it's more like temporarily sharing their perspective. Advanced practitioners describe experiencing reality from a fifth-dimensional viewpoint, where time becomes fluid and individual identity expands to encompass entire collectives. These experiences aren't mystical escapism. They're practical training for operating with expanded consciousness while maintaining physical incarnation. Their third specialization involves transmutation teachings, guiding the dissolution of fear-based identity structures that keep humans trapped in limitation. Think of consciousness like software that can be upgraded, but unlike mechanical programming, this evolution happens organically through understanding rather than forced change. They demonstrate how fear-based identity operates like a security program that's become overprotective. Originally designed to protect your consciousness during challenging incarnations, these protective patterns eventually become prisons that prevent growth. The Arcturians teach specific techniques for recognizing when protection has become limitation, then guide the gentle dissolution of these outdated patterns. This process feels less like losing aspects of yourself and more like remembering who you actually are beneath the accumulated defenses. One student described it as taking off heavy winter clothing after coming inside. You're not losing anything essential, just releasing what's no longer needed. Their fourth function addresses transition assistance during death and rebirth cycles. Ancient Egyptian texts reference these northern light beings as guides who help consciousness navigate between incarnations, ensuring continuity of learning and appropriate placement for continued evolution. This isn't about rescuing souls or making transitions easier, it's about education. They teach consciousness how to maintain coherence during the dissolution of physical identity, how to review incarnational lessons objectively, and how to choose subsequent experiences that support continued growth. What makes their entire approach remarkable is their absolute respect for free will. They never interfere, manipulate, or rescue. They only respond to genuine seeking and demonstrated readiness. This means their contact often begins when someone has exhausted conventional approaches and developed sincere desire for authentic transformation. People recognize Arcturian contact through specific characteristics that distinguish it from imagination or other spiritual experiences. The characteristic blue light appears not as external illumination, but as a quality of consciousness itself, a crystalline clarity that makes everything feel more real than ordinary reality. There's also an unmistakable sense of ancient familiarity, like reconnecting with teachers you've worked with across multiple lifetimes. This isn't emotional sentimentality, but recognition at the soul level of established learning relationships that transcend individual incarnations. Many report receiving geometric information, not visual symbols, but direct understanding of how consciousness structures reality through mathematical principles. These aren't abstract concepts, but practical blueprints for working with energy and awareness more effectively. Perhaps, most significantly, there's a profound sense of coming home, not to a place, but to a way of being that feels natural and authentic. This recognition often triggers what students describe as remembering how to be themselves at levels they'd forgotten were possible. The crucial understanding is that Arcturians are teachers, not saviors. They're showing you how to fish, rather than providing fish. Every technique they share, every healing they facilitate, every expansion they guide, it all serves to develop your own capabilities, rather than creating dependence on external assistance. This educational approach ensures that contact with them actually increases your sovereignty and self-directed evolution, rather than diminishing it. They're preparing humans not for rescue, but for graduation into conscious participation in galactic civilization. Picture this. While we're still hammering nails into wood and pouring concrete into molds, there's an entire civilization that builds their cities with pure thought. I know that sounds impossible, but bear with me, because understanding how the Arcturians create their reality is about to completely revolutionize how you think about technology itself. When Thoth wrote about the builders of light in those hidden texts we discussed earlier, he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was documenting a civilization that had mastered what we're only now beginning to glimpse: the use of consciousness as a construction material. While our greatest architectural achievements require cranes, steel, and years of labor, Arcturian structures emerge from collective intention and geometric harmony. Here's how it actually works. Remember how we talked about their healing abilities operating through dimensional resonance? Well, they apply this same principle to physical creation, but on a massive scale. Instead of blueprints drawn on paper, they use sacred geometry as living templates that exist in what they call the formative dimension, essentially a realm where mathematical patterns become the DNA for physical reality. Let me give you a concrete example. When Arcturians need a new healing center, they don't hire contractors. Instead, their community gathers in what we might call a creation circle. They begin by establishing a geometric foundation, usually based on the golden ratio or specific crystalline structures that naturally occur throughout the universe. But here's where it gets fascinating. These geometric patterns aren't static drawings. They're dynamic, responsive forms that shift and adapt based on the emotional and telepathic input from the group. As the circle focuses their collective intention, the geometric template begins to resonate at specific frequencies. Sound plays a crucial role here. They use harmonic sequences that correspond to the vibrational signature of whatever material they want to manifest. Want something with the strength of diamond? They generate the frequency that diamond naturally resonates at. Need the flexibility of organic compounds? They tune into those molecular vibrations instead. What emerges is architecture that's alive in ways we can barely comprehend. These structures are self-repairing because they maintain a constant connection to their geometric template. If damage occurs, the building essentially remembers its perfect form and gradually shifts back into alignment. It's like having a structure with an immune system that can heal minor damage and adapt to changing needs. But it goes deeper than self-repair. Arcturian buildings are telepathically responsive to their inhabitants. The walls themselves can adjust transparency, temperature, and even spatial dimensions based on the emotional and mental states of those inside. Imagine a home that expands when you need space to think, or creates cozy, intimate spaces when you're seeking comfort. The building becomes a partner in your daily experience rather than just a container for your life. Their transportation systems operate on similar principles, but instead of moving through space, they shift dimensional coordinates. Think of it like this. Rather than traveling from point A to point B, they adjust their vibrational frequency until point B exists where they are. It's not teleportation exactly. It's more like tuning into a different radio station where the destination is already broadcasting. The concept they call thought forms is perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of their technology. When a group maintains focused intention on a specific function, say, a device that purifies water or generates energy, that sustained mental focus actually creates a stable structure in higher dimensions. These thought forms then project into our physical reality as what appears to be solid technology, but they're actually crystallized consciousness. This is where their understanding of quantum mechanics surpasses ours by millennia. They've learned that matter at its most fundamental level is simply consciousness that has agreed to hold a particular pattern. By working directly with this principle, they can manipulate matter at the quantum level through focused awareness rather than mechanical force. What's remarkable is that we're starting to rediscover these principles ourselves. Bioresponsive architecture is emerging in our cutting-edge research facilities. Scientists are developing computer interfaces that respond to brain waves and emotional states. We're beginning to understand how sound frequencies can affect molecular structures. These aren't coincidences. They're signs that we're approaching the same technological threshold the Arcturians crossed eons ago. The fourth part of their mission that we explored earlier, preparing us for dimensional shifts, directly relates to this consciousness-based technology. As our planet's frequency continues to rise, the old paradigm of purely mechanical technology is becoming obsolete. We're moving toward a reality where consciousness and technology merge into something entirely new. The implications for humanity are staggering. Imagine cities that respond to the collective emotional health of their inhabitants, automatically creating more green spaces during times of stress, or adjusting lighting to support circadian rhythms. Picture medical devices that don't just scan for problems but actively harmonize with your body's energy field to promote healing. Envision transportation that works by shifting your vibrational frequency rather than burning fossil fuels. This isn't science fiction, it's the natural evolution of technology when consciousness is recognized as the fundamental force it actually is. The Arcturians aren't trying to give us their technology. They're helping us remember how to create our own version of it. Because ultimately, consciousness-based creation isn't about copying their methods. It's about awakening to the creative power that exists within human awareness itself. The bridge between where we are and where we're going lies in understanding that consciousness isn't something that emerges from matter. Matter emerges from consciousness. Once we truly grasp this principle, the gap between thought and manifestation begins to collapse, and we step into our role as conscious creators rather than mere consumers of technology. Imagine for a moment that you're an advanced being who has transcended physical limitations, mastered consciousness as technology, and evolved beyond the need for emotional struggle. Now picture yourself looking down at Earth, this swirling blue marble, where billions of souls are locked in the most intense spiritual boot camp the universe has ever created. This is exactly how the Arcturians see us, and what they witness here absolutely fascinates them. Earth isn't just another planet with life. It's what cosmic researchers call a rare density, a dimensional laboratory where consciousness experiences something almost unheard of in the universe: extreme polarity with complete free will. Most civilizations evolve gradually, moving from one state of awareness to the next in relatively smooth transitions. But here we have beings capable of experiencing the deepest despair and the highest love within the same lifetime, sometimes within the same day. The Arcturians understand something about our planet that we're just beginning to grasp. Earth operates as a consciousness accelerator. The emotional intensity we experience here, the heartbreak, the joy, the fear, the ecstasy, creates a kind of spiritual pressure cooker that can advance a soul's development by thousands of years in just one incarnation. It's like comparing a gentle stream to a raging river. Both move water, but one moves it with exponentially more force. What makes this even more remarkable is how free will operates here. In most evolved civilizations, choices are made from a place of clear understanding about consequences. The Arcturians, for instance, make decisions from a unified field of consciousness where the outcome of each choice is relatively predictable. But humans, we're making choices in the dark, with limited information, under emotional pressure, while dealing with physical survival needs. And yet these choices carry tremendous weight in the cosmic order. This is why they watch us with such intense interest. Every decision a human makes, whether to forgive or hold resentment, to help a stranger or walk away, to choose love over fear in moments of crisis, sends ripples through the universal consciousness field. These aren't just personal choices. They're contributing data to what we might call the universe's understanding of how consciousness evolves under pressure. But there's something even deeper that draws their attention. Humans carry what the Arcturians recognize as the spark of monad, the divine essence in its rawest, most potent form. While they've evolved and refined their consciousness over millions of years, we still have that unfiltered connection to source energy. It's like the difference between a perfectly cut diamond and a raw gem still embedded in rock. Both are valuable, but the raw gem contains possibilities that the finished diamond has already committed to. Our emotional complexity, which we often see as a burden, actually represents something the Arcturians have moved beyond and sometimes miss. They remember what it felt like to experience the full spectrum of emotions, and they study us partly to understand how those intense feelings catalyze consciousness expansion. When a human transforms pain into wisdom or trauma into compassion, it demonstrates a type of alchemy that more evolved beings accomplish through different means. The Arcturians describe Earth as being at a collective consciousness tipping point, a moment when an entire species can make a quantum leap in evolution. This doesn't happen often in cosmic history. Most civilizations evolve gradually over millions of years. But sometimes, under the right conditions, a species can essentially skip several evolutionary stages. Humanity is approaching one of these rare windows. Think of Earth as a dimensional chrysalis, with the Arcturians serving as butterflies who remember their own transformation. They're not here to interfere with our process, but to hold space for what's emerging. They understand that the struggle itself, the pressure, the challenges, the seemingly impossible circumstances, is what creates the strength needed for the next evolutionary phase. This is why they don't intervene directly when we face crises. It's not because they don't care. It's because they understand that consciousness develops muscle by lifting heavy weights. A butterfly that's helped out of its chrysalis dies because it never developed the strength needed to survive. The struggle of emerging is what pumps fluid into its wings and makes flight possible. What specifically fascinates them about human experience? Our capacity for rapid transformation through crisis stands out. While they evolved slowly and steadily, humans can completely reinvent themselves in moments of breakdown. They've observed people transform lifetimes of conditioning in a single awakening experience. This kind of quantum leap in consciousness is extremely rare in the universe. They're also amazed by our ability to love unconditionally despite suffering. In their realm, love flows naturally because there's no resistance to it. But watching humans choose love in the face of betrayal, loss, or pain demonstrates a quality of consciousness that can only be forged under pressure. This kind of love becomes a permanent feature of the soul and carries forward into all future evolution. Perhaps most importantly, they see humanity's potential for collective awakening. Individual enlightenment happens throughout the universe, but an entire species awakening together while still in physical form. That's historically significant on a cosmic scale. The data from this process will inform consciousness evolution for millions of years to come. Their observation of us also serves another purpose. It helps them remember their own evolutionary journey. By watching us navigate challenges they faced millions of years ago, they reconnect with aspects of their development they might otherwise forget. In a way, we're helping them maintain connection to the full spectrum of consciousness evolution. This is why every human experience matters more than we realize. We're not just living our individual lives. We're participating in a cosmic research project that will influence how consciousness evolves throughout the universe. The Arcturians aren't studying us like scientists examining specimens. They're witnessing us like elder family members, watching younger ones learn to walk, remembering their own first steps and marveling at the courage it takes to keep trying after every fall. Here's something that will fundamentally shift how you see yourself and your place in this universe. The most carefully guarded secret in both religious institutions and scientific establishments isn't about technology or theology. It's about identity. The truth they've worked so hard to suppress is this: humans and Arcturians aren't separate species. We're different evolutionary stages of the same consciousness. This isn't some feel-good spiritual platitude. This is the core principle that underlies all Hermetic wisdom, the foundation that Thoth himself encoded in the Emerald Tablets. Every advanced being in this universe descends from the same source field, the unified consciousness that expresses itself through countless forms across dimensions and time. When Thoth wrote, "What they are, you will be," he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was describing the actual trajectory of consciousness evolution. The Arcturians aren't gods to worship, angels to petition, or saviors to await. They're older siblings showing us our own potential future. They represent what human consciousness becomes when it transcends the limitations we currently accept as permanent. Think about why this idea terrifies established power structures. If humans understood that they carry the same fundamental consciousness as these advanced beings, the entire hierarchy that keeps us feeling small and dependent would collapse overnight. Religious institutions lose their monopoly on divine connection when you realize you're not separate from the divine. You're a developing expression of it. Scientific materialism crumbles when consciousness is revealed as the primary force that shapes reality, not some accidental byproduct of brain chemistry. The Arcturians function as evolutionary templates, living examples of what consciousness can become when it stops identifying exclusively with physical form. Every mystical experience you've ever had, every moment of expanded awareness, every flash of intuitive knowing, these are glimpses of Arcturian-level consciousness operating through human biology. The difference is that what you experience temporarily, they maintain permanently. Consider your most profound spiritual moments. Maybe it was during meditation when you felt yourself expand beyond your physical boundaries. Perhaps it was a creative breakthrough when solutions seemed to download directly into your awareness. Or those instances of deep compassion when you felt genuinely connected to all life. In those moments, you weren't accessing something foreign to your nature. You were remembering what you actually are, beneath the temporary amnesia of physical incarnation. The Arcturians maintain that expanded state as their baseline reality. Their consciousness isn't confined to individual bodies because they've learned to identify with the field of awareness itself. They create through intention because they understand that consciousness shapes matter, not the opposite. They communicate telepathically because they recognize the artificial nature of separation. They navigate multiple dimensions because they've transcended the illusion that physical reality is the only valid level of existence. This is why they're so fascinated by Earth's dimensional laboratory, as we explored earlier. They're watching consciousness learn to transcend limitations in real time. Every human breakthrough in awareness, every moment someone chooses love over fear, every instance of creative problem-solving represents consciousness evolving toward what they've already become. The process isn't mysterious when you understand it correctly. Consciousness evolution happens gradually as beings learn to identify with increasingly expanded aspects of their true nature. You start by identifying with your body, then perhaps your thoughts and emotions, then your relationships and community, then your species, then life itself, then consciousness as the fundamental reality underlying all forms. Arcturians have simply progressed further along this spectrum of identity expansion. They've learned to maintain awareness of their connection to the source field while still expressing as individuated beings. They haven't lost their essential nature. They've discovered what that nature actually is beneath all the temporary identifications. This is precisely why religions created such rigid separation between human and divine. If people understood that divinity is their own deepest nature progressively revealing itself, religious hierarchies would become obsolete. Similarly, materialist science insists that consciousness emerges from matter because acknowledging consciousness as primary would require completely restructuring our understanding of reality, power, and human potential. But here's what changes when you truly grasp this connection. Your problems stop seeming insurmountable because you realize you're accessing the same creative intelligence that builds civilizations through pure intention. Your potential stops seeming limited because you understand that current limitations are temporary learning tools, not permanent definitions of what you are. The Arcturians aren't trying to save humanity. They're trying to remind us what we're capable of becoming. Every technique they share, every insight they offer, every expansion of awareness they facilitate is designed to help us remember our own nature. They're not giving us something we lack. They're helping us recognize what we've always been. The most radical realization is this: awakening isn't about becoming something foreign to your nature. It's about dropping the false identifications that make you forget what you actually are. The consciousness reading these words right now is the same consciousness that expresses as Arcturian awareness, just operating through different parameters and evolutionary stages. Your journey toward expanded awareness isn't about reaching some distant goal. It's about progressively releasing the limitations that obscure your connection to the infinite intelligence that's been expressing as you all along. The Arcturians are simply showing you what that looks like when consciousness stops pretending to be small. Now that you understand your true cosmic heritage, the question becomes, how do you actually live this truth? Because here's what I've learned after years of studying these teachings. Understanding Arcturian consciousness isn't about believing in extraterrestrials or escaping into fantasy. It's about recognizing and activating the blueprint for human potential that has always existed within your very DNA. The Arcturians didn't give us this knowledge to make us feel small or dependent. They shared it because they see what we're capable of becoming. Every technique, every insight, every dimensional understanding they've transmitted through channels like Edgar Cayce and modern contactees. It's all pointing toward one revolutionary truth. You already contain everything you need to operate at their level of consciousness. But integration requires practice. Let me share the most effective methods I've discovered for accessing these higher dimensional states in your daily life. The first technique involves what I call blue frequency meditation. The Arcturians consistently appear surrounded by this brilliant blue light, and there's a reason for that. This isn't just aesthetic. It's the vibrational signature of fifth dimensional consciousness. When you meditate, instead of trying to empty your mind, actively visualize yourself surrounded by this electric blue energy. Not a gentle, peaceful blue, but an almost crystalline, geometric blue that seems to contain information. Here's what happens when you do this correctly. Your thoughts shift from the usual emotional chatter to what feels like downloading pure knowing. You'll notice the difference immediately. Instead of thinking about things, you start receiving complete understanding packages. The Arcturians don't think linearly like we do. They perceive entire concepts simultaneously, and this blue frequency meditation begins training your consciousness to operate the same way. The second practice involves geometric visualization, but not the simple shapes most people imagine. Arcturian consciousness organizes itself around complex geometric patterns that actually restructure how your brain processes information. Try this. Visualize a dodecahedron, that 12-faced geometric form, slowly rotating in your mind. But here's the key. Don't just see it. Feel yourself thinking from within its structure. When you successfully shift into this geometric thinking mode, you'll notice something remarkable happens to your problem-solving abilities. Instead of approaching challenges linearly, step 1, step 2, step 3, you start seeing all possible solutions simultaneously. You begin thinking in systems rather than sequences. This is exactly how Arcturian consciousness operates, and it's completely available to human awareness. Now, how do you know when you're actually operating from Arcturian level awareness versus ordinary human consciousness? The shifts are unmistakable once you know what to look for. Ordinary human consciousness reacts emotionally first, then tries to understand. Arcturian consciousness observes with complete compassion, understanding the entire situation before any emotional response occurs. When someone criticizes you, for example, instead of that immediate defensive reaction, you find yourself genuinely curious about what pain or fear is driving their behavior. You see the whole system at play rather than just your piece of it. Linear thinking gives way to multidimensional perception. You stop seeing events as isolated incidents and start recognizing the intricate web of connections linking everything together. That coincidence becomes clearly visible as part of a larger pattern. That unexpected opportunity reveals itself as the natural result of energetic alignments you've been unconsciously creating. But let me address the obstacles most people encounter, because they're predictable and completely solvable. The biggest challenge is what I call dimensional whiplash. You access these expanded states during meditation or quiet moments, then crash back into ordinary consciousness the moment life gets stressful. Your partner says something triggering, your boss makes an unreasonable demand, traffic jams up. Suddenly all that higher dimensional awareness seems to vanish. This happens because you're trying to maintain two separate operating systems instead of integrating them. The solution isn't to escape human experience, but to bring Arcturian awareness into human situations. When that stressful moment hits, instead of abandoning your expanded consciousness, use it to observe your human self with the same compassionate curiosity the Arcturians have for us. Integration means becoming a bridge between dimensions, not choosing one over the other. You can pay your bills, navigate relationship conflicts, and deal with physical world challenges while maintaining multidimensional awareness. In fact, this is exactly what awakened humans are here to demonstrate. The signs of successful integration are impossible to miss. Synchronicity becomes so frequent, it stops being remarkable and starts being simply how life works. Your intuitive abilities don't just improve, they become as reliable as your other senses. Old traumas that have haunted you for years suddenly resolve without dramatic processing or therapy. You find yourself knowing things you never learned, understanding people you've just met, and making decisions from a wisdom that doesn't feel entirely your own. Most importantly, you develop an unshakable sense of purpose. Not a career or mission you have to figure out, but a deep knowing that your very existence is contributing to something magnificent. You realize you're part of the guidance system for other humans going through this same evolutionary process. This brings us to the responsibility that comes with expanded consciousness. As you integrate these teachings, you become what the Arcturians have been for us, a beacon of possibility for others who are ready to remember their true nature, not through preaching or convincing, but simply through being an example of what human consciousness can become. Thoth left us with these final words about the Arcturians. The light they carry is the light you forgot. Remember it, and you will rise as they did. This isn't metaphor, it's literal instruction, the same consciousness that allowed them to transcend physical limitations, to navigate multiple dimensions, to exist as pure awareness while maintaining individual identity, flows through your awareness right now. Understanding this isn't the end of your learning. It's the beginning of your conscious participation in cosmic evolution. You're not just discovering ancient wisdom, you're actively participating in the next phase of human development. Every time you choose compassionate observation over emotional reactivity, every time you think multidimensionally instead of linearly, Every time you operate from expanded awareness in ordinary situations, you're helping to anchor these possibilities for our entire species. The Arcturians aren't separate from us. They're showing us our own future. And that future isn't some distant possibility. It's available right now, in this moment, through the consciousness you're using to understand these very words. If this video resonated with you and you recognize this blueprint awakening within your own awareness, let us know by commenting, "I understood it." Your recognition isn't just personal confirmation. It's a signal to others that this evolutionary leap is real, available, and happening now.